In our house, risk was only a problem when I brought it up. When I asked for help funding my tech startup, just 50 grand to get my prototype out of the garage and into investors' hands, my dad rubbed his temples like I'd asked for a kidney. Too risky, Ryan? That's not how business works. You can't just throw money at ideas. Be grateful for what you have. Funny, because when my brother Luke wanted a fourth chance at his luxury brand consulting venture, Dad wired him $200,000 and a brand new Jaguar with red leather seats. You have to spend money to make money, he said that time. He actually winked, like he was dropping wisdom from the heavens. I wasn't even shocked at that point. Luke was always the favorite. If I was the spare tire in this family, he was the gold-plated steering wheel. Growing up, he failed at everything loudly, and was applauded for having the guts to try. I built apps in my bedroom, coded until my fingers ached, and was told to go rake the lawn. They used to call me Garage Boy. Luke came up with that one. Mom laughed so hard she choked on her wine the first time he said it. Dad called it harmless sibling teasing. Luke had a gift for that, giving insults just polished enough to pass as jokes. Garage Boy, he'd whisper as he walked past me in the hallway, smirking in his $1,000 hoodie. Still trying to invent the next Facebook in your pajamas? I kept building anyway. By the time I graduated high school, I had already launched 2 small platforms, one for campus tutoring, the other for freelance video editors. Nothing huge, but enough to make a few grand and keep my dream alive. I applied to colleges, but instead of chasing degrees, I wanted to chase product market fit. Build something real. Something scalable. My idea was simple, at least on paper, a real-time AI-based collaboration tool that let creators and editors work across time zones with automated sync, script tagging, and version tracking. Basically, Google Docs for video, but better. I spent a year prototyping. I picked up freelance back-end gigs, slept under my desk, lived off caffeine and peanut butter packets. I demoed the product to a few content creators, and the early feedback was solid. I wasn't asking my parents to bet on me, I was asking for runway. You're not ready, Dad said. This isn't Shark Tank. What if it fails? I almost laughed. Fail? Like Luke's last 3 ventures? The food truck, the crypto newsletter, the failed Kickstarter for ergonomic wine openers. Luke had business cards printed before he had a plan. I had a working prototype and a waitlist of beta testers. But no. I was too risky. He didn't even read my pitch deck. That night, I lay awake in my old bedroom, the same one with the peeling wallpaper and Ethernet cables coiled like vines around my desk. I kept refreshing my inbox, hoping for some kind of miracle. Instead, I heard Luke roll up in the driveway, his new Jag purring like a spoiled cat, and Dad laughing from the porch. I didn't cry. I just packed my bag and left before sunrise. No drama. No shouting. Just silence. The same silence I'd gotten my whole life. I crashed on my friend Jeremy's couch downtown. Not exactly ideal, but his place had Wi-Fi, decent coffee, and something my parents' house never did, support. Jeremy's family ran a tiny printing business, and they let me set up shop in their unused back office. A dusty corner, a squeaky chair, and a heater that clanged like it had war flashbacks. It was perfect. For the next 3 months, I worked like a man possessed. I emailed VCs, cold DM'd angel investors on LinkedIn, showed up to demo days with coffee-stained hoodies and frayed nerves. Every no made me hungrier. Every ignored pitch made the next one sharper. Then, finally, I got my break. A niche tech accelerator offered me a spot in their spring cohort. They didn't hand out checks right away, but they gave me something better: mentorship, exposure, and desk space next to other people just as sleep-deprived and obsessed as I was. I called Dad that night. I thought maybe he'd be proud. Maybe he'd say, "Good job, son." He didn't pick up. Mom texted back 2 hours later. "Sorry, your father's at dinner with Luke. I'll tell him you called." Right. Of course. That's when it clicked. They weren't waiting for me to succeed. They were waiting for me to fail, just to say I told you so. But that's not what happened. 6 months into the accelerator program, everything changed. I was still eating instant noodles for breakfast and answering emails with shaking hands from caffeine overdoses. But for the first time in my life, people were listening. The startup, now called Syncly, had traction. Beta testers were actually using it, not just signing up and ghosting. One editor used it for a YouTube documentary and messaged me. "This saved us 40 hours in revisions. How did this not exist already?" That one message? I printed it out and pinned it to the wall above my tiny desk like it was a diploma. Then came the TechCrunch article. One of the mentors at the accelerator casually forwarded my product demo to a journalist he knew, and I didn't think anything would come of it. But suddenly, I was getting interview requests, podcasts asking for guest spots, even YouTubers sliding into my DMs asking for early access. The headline read, "From Garage to Growth, How a 22-year-old is Reinventing Video Collaboration." I didn't cry. But I definitely sent the link to my mom. No response. Not even a "wow." Just silence. I pictured her reading it next to Luke, both of them rolling their eyes. I could practically hear her saying, "Well, anyone can get in TechCrunch these days. It's all paid promo now, right?" Meanwhile, Luke's Instagram had gone dark. Gone were the rise and grind briefcase 100 points, selfies in the car, the flashy coffee table setups with business books he clearly never read, and the reels showing off productivity hacks, while he filmed himself napping. I'd heard through Jeremy, whose cousin worked at a local car wash, that Luke had been spotted begging the manager for a part-time job. With the Jag. That couldn't have been a fun conversation. Turns out his latest luxury concierge startup had collapsed in flames after some influencer called him out for stealing her itinerary package and reselling it. Lawsuits pending. Investors gone. The money? Burned through in under 9 months. Guess you can't run a company off Pinterest boards and vibes. I didn't say a word. Not to him. Not to my parents. Just built. Fast forward another 6 months, Syncly got its first seed round. A clean $750,000 from a trio of angel investors who believed in the platform. I was still living in Jeremy's family's back office, still wearing the same 3 hoodies on rotation, but I suddenly had something I'd never had before. Leverage. And oh boy, the universe loves irony. Because that same week, my phone rang. Dad. Not a text. Not a voicemail. A full-on phone call, as if he forgot we hadn't spoken since he ghosted my first funding request. I let it ring. Twice. Then picked up. His voice was calm. Almost rehearsed. "Hey, Ryan. Just wanted to say congrats. We saw the article. And your mom said you've really been working hard." I didn't say anything. I wanted to see where this was going. "Well," he continued, "we were wondering if you had some time to stop by. Just family stuff. You know." I nearly laughed. Family stuff. That was rich. I agreed. Out of curiosity more than anything. When I pulled into their driveway 2 days later, the first thing I noticed was the absence of the Jaguar. Then I saw Luke sitting on the porch, scrolling his cracked phone with the same defeated posture he used to laugh at me for. The only thing missing was the gold chain. I guess that went first. "Ryan," Dad said, stepping out with forced warmth. "Son." He hadn't called me that in years. We sat at the kitchen table, the same one where I'd once pitched him my startup and been told to go mow the lawn instead. Except now, there was tension. Mom was fidgety. Luke wouldn't make eye contact. Dad cleared his throat like he was about to give a TED talk. "So, Luke's going through a rough patch." Understatement of the century. "And we were thinking," he continued slowly, "since your company's doing well now, really well, maybe it's time to, bring things back together. Unite the family?" I squinted. Mom jumped in. "He means, maybe you could sell part of the company. Or bring Luke in?" "Bring Luke in?" I asked deadpan. "Just for optics." Dad rushed. "To show that the family's united. That we build things together. For the family name. There it was. The family name. Not once had they cared when I was drowning in code and ramen noodles. Not once did they call when I was rejected by 22 investors. But now that I had leverage, now that there was something to lose, suddenly, we were the Corbin family empire. I looked over at Luke, still avoiding my eyes. He wasn't even embarrassed, just entitled. Like this was owed to him. Let me get this straight, I said slowly. You want me to sell part of my company, to make Luke look good? To protect a family name that never protected me? Dad straightened. It's not about you. It's about unity. I stood up. Then calmly, politely, turned toward the door. I think we're done here, I said. And Luke? Maybe next time, try actually building something, before asking someone else to sell theirs. I walked out. Didn't slam the door. Didn't yell. Just walked. The silence behind me? Perfect. 3 days after I walked out of my parents' house, I got a Google alert with my name in it. At first, I thought maybe another tech blog picked up our seed round news. But no, this was something else entirely. A Reddit thread had popped up entitled Tech Bro Refuses to Help His Bankrupt Brother, Family Ruined. The username? Brand new. The writing style? Familiar. The details? Suspiciously accurate. I scrolled through the thread, reading every line like I was watching a car crash in slow motion. My brother got lucky with some AI tool and now thinks he's better than the rest of us. My parents are heartbroken. They raised us to support each other, but apparently money changes people. There were even blurry photos of me walking out of my parents' house. From behind. Luke had posted them. And the kicker? He signed off with, not asking for hate. Just want people to know how cold the tech world can be. Bro. The tech world? You sold itinerary templates off Pinterest. Within hours, the post was reposted across 3 startup forums. One VC I'd pitched before even commented. Smells like someone's mad their little brother didn't Venmo them $1 million. I didn't reply. But I did get a very polite Slack DM from my lead investor that night. Hey Ryan, just FYI, saw some stuff floating online. Let me know if you want help drafting a response. We know the truth. I replied with a simple. Appreciate it. No need to feed trolls. Focused on building. Professional. Calm. While inside, I was fuming. Luke wasn't just petty, he was dangerous. He didn't care if he scorched the entire house, as long as I looked bad in the smoke. But karma moves fast. Because guess what else popped up on my radar that week? An email from an old family acquaintance, Mr. Adler, a retired angel investor Dad used to golf with. He'd always treated me like I was invisible growing up. Subject line. Your work was Sinclair. I braced myself. But the message surprised me. Ryan, I saw your name come up recently. Just wanted to say, impressive stuff. Had no idea you'd built something so solid. I'd love to talk. Turns out, Adler had left the golf course, and quietly started funding creator-focused tools. And he hated messy drama. Especially when his former golf buddy's son was out here launching Reddit exposés like a soap opera intern. We had coffee. He liked what he saw. And just like that, he joined our next round. Luke's smear campaign accidentally landed me an investor. Life's funny like that. Meanwhile, Luke was spiraling. I didn't follow him, but people sent me updates. Screenshots. Snippets from his close friends' Instagram stories. One post said, "Guess loyalty means nothing these days. But watch me bounce back, fire #rise again." The next day? Need a co-founder for a fresh idea. DM me if you got hustle. Bro, you don't need a co-founder. You need a financial advisor and an app. A week later, I got a text from Mom. Just 3 words. Please call me. I didn't. Instead, I poured myself a coffee, slipped on headphones, and jumped into another product call with my dev team. We were shipping something new. Something better. And for the first time in my life, I wasn't chasing their approval anymore. They were chasing mine. 2 weeks later, I got a formal invitation. Not an email. Not a text. A printed letter. In an envelope. Hand-delivered by Luke. He showed up at my office door in a wrinkled button-down, holding a white envelope like it was an olive branch, or maybe a lawsuit. "Family dinner," he said flatly. "Dad wants to talk. Everyone will be there." I stared at the envelope. "Is there going to be a PowerPoint this time?" He didn't laugh. Just shrugged and walked off. Inside the envelope, it read, "We invite you to dinner at the house. No drama. No pressure. Just a conversation. No drama." From the people who launched a smear campaign and subtweeted me in real life? Sure. I went. Not because I wanted closure, but because part of me still wanted to see just how far they'd go. When I arrived, the dining table was set like it was Thanksgiving. Candles. Wine. Napkins folded like swans. Luke sat at one end looking like a guy who just Googled humble outfit ideas. Mom smiled too wide. Dad opened with, "You look well. Really thriving, son." I didn't even sit yet. "Let's get to it," I said. Dad coughed awkwardly. "Right. So, we've been thinking about legacy." There it was again. Legacy. Family name. Unity. All code for, "We screwed up but would really like a bailout now." He cleared his throat and gestured toward Luke. "Your brother has made mistakes, sure. But he's got vision. And we think—" "You think," I cut in, "that if I put his name on my company, the media won't call him a joke anymore?" Silence. Mom jumped in. "Honey, it's not about the company. It's about healing. This family has been fractured for too long." "Healing," I repeated deadpan. "Right after Luke tried to blowtorch my reputation on the internet." Luke finally spoke. "It wasn't personal, man. I was just mad. And desperate." "Oh, that makes it better," I said, sipping my water. "Should have added a hashtag. Hashtag forgive me, bro." Dad tried to regain control. "We want to propose something. A partnership. You sell a majority stake to a firm we vetted." I actually choked. "You want me to sell my company?" "Not all of it," Dad said quickly. "Just enough to bring in capital and real business minds. It'll help clean the slate. Rebuild our name." "Our name?" This man couldn't even remember the name of my product a year ago. Now he wanted to rebrand my life's work into a family-friendly redemption arc? I set my glass down. "Let me ask one question," I said. "Where were you when I asked for help? When I begged you to read my pitch deck? When I was sleeping on Jeremy's floor, eating expired protein bars and pitching investors who ghosted me for months?" No one spoke. "And now you want me to hand over control of the one thing I built, so you can erase your son's mistakes and save face at the country club?" Mom looked like she wanted to cry. Luke looked like he already had. But I wasn't angry anymore. I wasn't even sad. I was done. I stood up. "If legacy's so important," I said, "start your own company. Rebuild your own name." I did. Dad's voice cracked. "Son, be reasonable. You'll regret this." I paused at the doorway. "No," I said calmly. "You'll regret not believing in me when it actually mattered." And then I left. No swan napkin. No goodbye hug. Just a quiet walk back to my car, heart pounding, not from rage this time, but from relief. The chapter was closing. And I was writing the ending. The next morning, I got a text from my mom. "We didn't mean to hurt you. You're just so different now. Hard to reach." I didn't reply. Not because I was angry, not anymore, but because I finally understood something. They weren't trying to fix the family. They were trying to rewrite the story. Make Luke the misunderstood visionary. Make Dad the wise patriarch who knew when to step in. Make me the resentful son who got lucky and forgot his roots. But roots don't matter if the soil was poisoned to begin with. That same week, my company launched a new update. Nothing flashy, just better workflow tools, tighter UX, smoother sync. But it blew up anyway. A viral TikTok review by a content creator with 6 million followers called it the most underrated tool we've ever used. Overnight, our user base doubled. 2 days later, Wired emailed asking for an interview. My name was finally circulating in places my family couldn't control and couldn't spin. So of course, Luke did what Luke does best. He posted an apology video. In his car, parked somewhere suspiciously close to my office, looking disheveled and raw. The caption read, "It's time to take accountability. I messed up. I let jealousy win. But I'll always love my brother. And I hope one day we can work together." It had all the classics: dramatic piano music, fake sniffles, and even a cut midway through where he clearly checked a script. It got 11,000 views. But what really caught attention? The comments. Turns out, the internet doesn't like manipulative growth arcs from guys who tried to cancel their own brother. Someone found the Reddit thread Luke had made. Someone else posted the blurry photos he took. Someone else dug up old tweets where Luke made fun of nerd culture and tech bros 5 months before I closed my seed round. Within 48 hours, Luke's apology was a meme. Even funnier? The Verge ran a piece on sibling rivalry in tech and used our story as the opener. They didn't name Luke directly, but the description was unmistakable. One founder built an app in a garage while his family mocked him. Now, his brother's internet drama has ironically boosted the platform's visibility. When I saw that line, I laughed so hard I had to mute my Zoom call. But the best part? The investor dad tried to get me to sell too? They emailed me, not to buy Syncly, but to ask if I wanted to advise their media division on digital toolsets. Your brother reached out first. They wrote. But after due diligence, we prefer you. Dad must have loved that one. Luke stopped posting for a while. The silence was loud. As for my parents? They tried to regroup. Mom sent messages like, "Can we talk privately?" and "Let's clear the air." Dad? He went with a classic. "You're still our son. But this isn't how families behave." I stared at that one for a long time. Not in anger. Just amazement. Because after everything, the rejections, the favoritism, the gaslighting, they still believed I was the problem. I drafted a reply. Then deleted it. Instead, I took a screenshot of the article from The Verge, the one with the garage founder story. And I texted it. No words. Just the image. 10 minutes later, I got a single text from Dad. "We'll never ask you for anything again." That was the first time he'd ever kept a promise. I was invited to speak at a local startup summit, one of those half-tech, half-investor events filled with overly enthusiastic college kids and older guys in Patagonia vests pretending to understand TikTok. The panel title? Building in the Dark, Founders Who Were Ignored Before They Made It. I didn't even hesitate. I knew exactly what I'd say. The event was held in this huge converted warehouse, Edison bulbs everywhere, pop-up espresso carts, people wearing company t-shirts like battle armor. I brought my usual black hoodie, no logo. Let them guess. I was last on the speaker lineup, which was perfect. The crowd was already warmed up by stories of, "I made $10 million by 25 but felt empty inside," and "My dog inspired my app." When I stepped on stage, I didn't bring notes. Just one slide. It was a grainy photo, a wide shot of my old desk in Jeremy's family's back office. Wires. Cold pizza. Stained hoodie on the chair. Cracked monitor. Whiteboard behind me with "Version 2, don't crash this time," written in permanent marker. The audience chuckled. I began. This was my world. No seed funding. No family board members. No one printing CO on a hoodie for me. Just caffeine, desperation, and a feature request list that looked like a ransom note. Laughter. Then I leaned forward. I asked for help once. Just $50,000. Got told it was too risky. Same month, my brother got $200,000 for his 5th failed project. And a Jaguar. True story. Now the audience was silent. My success didn't come despite being ignored. It came because of it. When no one shows up, you learn how to build your own chair at the table, and if you're smart, you install ejector seats. That line landed like a mic drop. And that's when I saw him. Back row. Trying to be subtle. My dad. He sat stiff, arms folded, face unreadable. No Luke. Just him. Of course. I kept going like I hadn't seen him. I was never the favorite. I was the fallback. The maybe he'll figure something out eventually kid. But here's the thing about black sheep. We get tired of the barn. So we build our own fences. Our own house. And eventually our own empire. Applause. I clicked to the next slide. A clean, high-res screenshot of Sinclair's dashboard. 3 million active users. This is what risk looks like now. Louder applause. I ended the talk and left the stage quickly. People stood. Clapped. A few asked for photos. I kept moving. Straight to the back exit. But of course, he followed. Ryan! I stopped. He was out of breath. Tie loose. Face pale. I didn't know you were speaking. He lied. I just nodded. You like the slide? He flinched. I didn't realize you felt that way, he said softer. You didn't realize anything, Dad, I replied. You were too busy sponsoring the Golden Child while I was coding at 3 a.m. in a janitor closet. He tried to regroup. We just wanted the best for both of you. No, I said calmly. You wanted the best from me. For him. He looked down. You made your point. I smiled. No. The market made my point. And then I left him standing there, surrounded by startup kids taking selfies, screens showing my platform stats, and a single chair on stage labeled Founder. Empty now. But no one questioned who'd filled it. A week after the summit, everything felt lighter. Investors were doubling down. Sinclair's growth had gone from steady to wildfire. Our user numbers ticked past 1.5 million like it was nothing. I had meetings with creators, post-production studios, even a streaming platform that wanted to integrate our tool. I was living in a place with real sunlight, actual walls that weren't made of plywood, and I had a team of 14 who actually cared. No one asked about my brother. No one called me the backup plan. It was peaceful. Until Mom showed up. Not a text. Not a call. She physically showed up. At my office. My assistant came in looking nervous. There's someone here who says she's your mom. I blinked. She said that out loud? She nodded. Let her in. I sighed. Mom walked in like she hadn't ghosted me for 2 years. Like she hadn't co-signed the too risky comment or clapped when Luke showed off his Jaguar. Ryan, she said, voice trembling like she'd been rehearsing. Can we talk? I nodded, mostly because my team was watching through the glass like it was a Netflix drama. We sat in my office. She looked around like she was in a spaceship. This is incredible. I mean, you really built something. I did, I said. Without any help. She swallowed. I know. And I regret a lot. I do. I stayed quiet. She leaned forward. But your father, he's struggling. The business connections he used to have, they're drying up. People talk, Ryan. That summit speech? It hurt his standing. He says people look at him differently now. My heart didn't even skip. Good, I said. Her mouth opened, stunned. Ryan, I know he was wrong. About a lot. But we're family. And our name. There it is again. I cut in. The name. She paused. I stood up and walked to the window. You want me to fix a reputation you destroyed trying to protect Luke's? No, she began, but I held up a hand. You chose to believe in his fake companies. You watched me work in silence, scraping by, and said nothing. Because we didn't think you'd make it, she snapped. Then immediately regretted it. I didn't mean. You did. She stood to now, desperate. We just need something. Just to buy time. He's trying to refinance the house. If you could vouch for us. You mean sign something? Yes. Just your name. Just to help the process. I turned around slowly. You want me to co-sign a loan, to protect a reputation I never benefited from? She said nothing. I walked to my desk. Picked up a framed photo. It wasn't of my family. It was my team, all of us after a product launch. Pizza boxes. Hoodies. Big dumb grins. I set it down. This, I said, tapping the frame, is my family now. Her face cracked. Then she tried one more time. Luke's been through a lot. He's not asking for anything himself, you know. He's ashamed. I stared at her. He's ashamed enough to show up in the parking lot for a selfie apology, but not enough to apologize to me directly? She had no answer. I'll send you back with one thing, I added. A number. She looked up, hopeful. 0. She blinked. 0. $0. 0 favors. 0 more conversations about legacy. I paused. 0 tolerance for guilt. Then I walked to the door and opened it. She didn't move. I nodded toward the hallway. She finally left. Didn't cry. Didn't slam the door. Just left. As she walked by the desks outside, one of my developers looked up from her laptop and whispered, "Was that your mom?" I smiled. Depends who's asking. And I sat back at my desk, surrounded by screens showing growth charts, user dashboards, and my own name, finally associated with something I built. No cosigner required. I thought that was the end. Honestly, I did. I figured after the summit, after my mom left the office without so much as a brochure, after Luke's public flop and their social circle going radio silent, they just vanish. But then came one last email. Not from Mom. Not from Dad. Not even from Luke. It was from their old lawyer. The same one who handled Dad's company filings and drafted the paperwork when Luke was handed that $200,000 startup fund, with no equity required. Subject line. Request for consideration, family estate. I opened it. Dear Mr. Holloway, your parents would like to formally request a meeting to discuss the possibility of restructuring shared assets, namely, the original family home and associated land. Given your current financial position and their recent difficulties, they believe you may be in a unique position to preserve the family estate and uphold the Holloway legacy. I closed the laptop. It was almost poetic. The house they wouldn't let me live in after high school. The land they swore would always belong to Luke. Now, with Dad's credit wrecked and refinancing denied, they were looking to hand me the deed, as long as I kept the name on it. I didn't reply. Not immediately. Instead, I made a call to a friend of mine, Jamie, who ran a firm that handled distressed property acquisitions. I gave her the address. She called me back in 15 minutes. Ryan, this is a steal, I said. Buy it. 2 weeks later, I stood in the foyer of that same house, the one where I'd been told I wasn't worth the risk, wasn't serious enough, wasn't the golden one. It was empty now. The walls still had the family photos. Luke's graduation, Luke's first car, Luke holding the family dog. Not a single one of me. That afternoon, I met with a contractor. We had plans. The very next day, I sent an email. Subject: Holloway Property Update. Attached was a PDF. Not a long one. Just 2 pages. Page 1, proof of purchase. Page 2, a photo of a sign we'd already posted on the lawn. It read, Future Home of Sinkley HQ. Underneath, in small print, powered by the name you thought wasn't worth the investment. I never got a reply. But a week later, someone sent me a photo. It was Dad, standing outside the property, staring at the sign like it personally betrayed him. Luke stood next to him, sunglasses on, trying to act like it didn't matter. But the caption on the photo said it all. Legacy secured. Just not yours. That night, I hosted a team dinner in the backyard of the house. We grilled steaks, passed around drinks, and toasted to our next big launch. And as the sun dipped behind the roofline, I looked around at the people who had believed in me before the world noticed. No one mentioned Luke. Or Dad. or old reputations. Because we weren't building a legacy for them. We were building something better. One that never needed their permission. Or their name.